Hello, my name is Skip, and this is a special edition of From the Fourth Row. And as you know by now, I've done some sports reviews of some of my favorite sports movies in the past. And with the NBA and hockey playoffs going on, I thought this would be a really good time to do my favorite basketball and hockey movies. And so with that, I'm going to say my 10th favorite basketball movie is, it's meant to be funny and silly, and I guess it takes place in an era when there's a lot to make fun of, and that's Semi-Pro. That's Will Ferrell's take on the old CBA, and he has fun with it, with granny free throws and stuff like that. So I kind of like Semi-Pro. Next on my list, number 9, is a breakout performance by a young actor at the time, and this is a very serious movie about drugs and basketball and youth, and it's got a really good soundtrack, and that's The Basketball Diaries, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. What a great movie for him to start out his young career. Now, number 8 on my list is another breakout performance, but it's by someone that's been acting for a while, and they really do a good job. And I'd say Finding Forrester with Sean Connery and F. Murray Abraham. When it comes to basketball, you have to make sure you get your grades right, and sometimes these kids are under a lot of pressure to do things the right way, and I think the young star of it is really good, and that's Jamal Wallace, and he's been in a couple other sports movies. So Finding Forrester is number 8 on my list. Number 7 on my list seems to be somewhat of a hit 15 years after it came out, and a lot of young people seem to recognize with it, and that's Love and Basketball, starring Omar Epps and Sanaa Lathan. I guess it's just, inner city kids that have not a lot going on, their relationships in school and basketball. That's the only thing they can really do to move their lives forward and hopefully get success. Number 6 is a true story based on a coach. Once again, we deal with kids and trying to get their grades right, and trying to make sure that gangs aren't involved in inner city athletics of high schools and stuff like that. And so what Coach Carter did was he locked the gym, and he says, if you can't do your grades, you can't come to school and do what's right, then we're not going to have basketball practice. And that was a controversial thing at the time, but it turned out for a great movie. Number 5 on my list is a movie about street basketball and betting and gambling and hustling, and I think it was a really good movie for Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson, and that's White Men Can't Jump. And the relationship between these two guys is really good, and I really like this movie. And there's a lot of high stakes gambling going on in street sports, especially like in cities like New York and Chicago and LA, involving basketball with hustlers and whatnot. Now, number 4 is another true story, but this time it's about college basketball, and it's about how hard it was for a team to actually have an entire black basketball team in an era when there wasn't a lot of black basketball teams, and they had to go up against powerhouses like Kentucky with people like Pat Riley on the team. And I think Josh Lucas does a great job as the coach in Glory Road, and it's about the very first all-black college basketball team in Texas. uh, UTEP. Well, it's now UTEP. Uh, University of Texas El Paso is the name of the school now, but back then it wasn't. Now, I would say my sentimental favorite, I would like to put it as my number one, but I just couldn't do it. But it's kind of a sentimental favorite because my favorite basketball player right now in the NBA plays for the Boston Celtics, and that's Ray Allen, and he actually stars in this movie. And it's him and Denzel Washington do an absolutely great job as father and son. And the famous name of Ray Allen's character is Jesus Shuttlesworth, and He Got Game. And there's a lot of, once again, we deal with the corruption of agents and money and school and that sort of stuff. But I think Spike Lee, who's a huge basketball fan, really does justice to high schools and sports and family and inner city athletics in He Got Game. Now, my number two is actually a documentary about two basketball players in Chicago, inner city Chicago, they're going to end up going into college. They're very highly recruited, and they end up having a documentary made about them. And it is an unbelievable movie. It has won multiple awards, and I think it's a prophetic look once you see where these two people are at today, let alone 5 years ago. But it's probably one of the better documentaries I've ever seen in my entire life, and it's called Hoop Dreams. I very, very highly recommend Hoop Dreams if you want to see how hard it is for kids to get somewhere. The ones that make it in life and the ones that don't are a very vast difference in numbers. But I think, it's obvious. It's very few movies that are as good as this. This is very well could have won the Oscar 1987. It lost out to Rain Man. I think it's one of the greatest sports movies of all time. It's definitely on my top 10 list of greatest sports movies of all time, and that's Gene Hackman, Dennis Hopper, Barbara Hershey. They all do a great job in one of the great movies, and that's Hoosiers. I cannot say enough about Hoosiers. I've actually quoted lines from Hoosiers while coaching basketball, so that's how much of an inspiration Hoosiers is to me. And it's once again another true story about a real team in Indiana, and about David versus Goliath, and of course every story has got interpersonal stuff going on. You got dealing with alcoholics and all kinds of different family issues that these kids have had to deal with, along with going up against a powerhouse team out of Indianapolis. And I just really cannot say enough about Hoosiers. It's just a wonderful, wonderful movie. Now I'm going to go on to my favorite hockey movies, and I don't have as many hockey movies as I do basketball movies, so I'm going to go through these pretty quick. Mystery Alaska is really a great movie, and it's a starring role for an up-and-coming guy from Australia in Russell Crowe, and it's kind of, once again, like that David versus Goliath kind of movie. And that's Mystery Alaska. I really like that a lot. And then another one that's a true story, but this time it's based about the Olympics, and the 1981 Olympics, where the United States was complete underdogs going into these Olympics, or the 1980 Olympics, I should say, and they ended up winning the gold medal against a unbelievable, powerful Russian team, and that's Miracle. It's just an amazing, amazing movie, and I think they really do justice to the time of the 80s with the clothes and how they dress the players in the right clothes, and the rinks and everything's really good as far as the time goes by and whatnot. Now, my favorite hockey movie, it's an all-time classic, and here we go again. We're going to say it's on my top 10 list of greatest sports movies of all time, and the son of one of the guys on it is actually played for Notre Dame, and that's Slapshot. I think it's one of Paul Newman's best movies, and I think the Hanson brothers are considered some of the all-time great movie characters because of some of the stuff that they do, the violence and whatnot that goes into hockey. And so that's just, if you're a hockey fan or a basketball fan, this will whet your appetite for some sports movies that might have your interest while the basketball and hockey playoffs are going on. And this is Skip, and this has been From the Fourth Row Special, Basketball and Hockey Movies.